Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
Specifically, a recent mock draft looking at their first 3 rounds. It gives a pretty interesting glimpse into maybe how they're thinking heading towards the draft.
Exactly. This popped up on Yardbarker via Baltimore Ravens on SI just yesterday, April 11th, and it's all about those crucial early picks.
Right, the ones where you usually expect guys to step in, pretty quickly.
Generally, yeah. Though the piece does mention sometimes it's about the long view, potential value, even if a guy isn't playing week one because of, say, an injury or maybe the depth chart.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The draft isn't always just about plugging immediate holes. Sometimes you got to grab that talent when you see it.
For sure. And we should probably say up front, predicting picks outside the top 100, it gets really tough,
Yeah.
even for the experts.
Oh, absolutely. It's educated guesswork at best down there.
So, yeah, our focus today is strictly on what this mock sees the Ravens doing in those first 3 rounds.
All right, let's jump in. Round one, pick number 27. They've got the Ravens grabbing Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon.
And right off the bat, the article throws out, a pretty huge comparison. Haloti Ngata.
Wow, okay. Another Oregon D lineman, obviously a Ravens legend, Hall of Famer. That's setting the bar high.
It really is. They do admit it's lofty,
Yeah.
but they see him as a potential, quote, game wrecker.
Yeah.
That's the kind of impact they're hinting at.
So what's his game like?
Well, positional flexibility is key here.
Yeah.
He can apparently line up across the interior D-line, and he's got power, real power, at the point of attack.
That Ngata comp, even if it's just aspirational, it speaks volumes about the type of player maybe they see, right? That dominant interior presence.
Exactly. Someone who can just control the line. If Harmon brings even some of that, it changes things for their defensive front.
Okay, looking at his college career,
Yeah.
spent 3 years at Michigan State first.
Yeah, established himself there, mostly known as a strong run defender, solid foundation.
But then his final year at Oregon sounds like he took a leap, especially rushing the passer.
Oh, big time. The stats are pretty eye-popping. Led all FBS defensive tackles. 55 pressures.
55 from the inside. That's disruptive.
Very. Plus career highs, 5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. I mean, he was living in the backfield.
And not just pressures and TFLs, right? Looks like he had forced fumbles, recoveries, batted passes too.
2 forced fumbles, 2 recoveries, 4 batted passes. Yeah, just making plays all over the place. Seems like he really has a nose for the football.
And then the combine. How did he look there? Sometimes the tape is great, but the testing.
Yeah, he backed it up.
Yeah,
Apparently really impressed, showed explosion, good bend, the stuff you need inside.
numbers.
Ran a 4.9540, which is top 5 for DTs.
Yeah.
And the 10-yard split, maybe even more important for these guys.
Yeah, that initial burst.
1.74 seconds, also top 5. Plus, they've mentioned powerful hands, move fluidly in the drills. He looks the part athletically.
So connecting the dots to the Ravens. Why this pick? Why now?
Well, 2 big things. Michael Pierce retired, right? Leaves a hole at nose tackle.
Great, big presence gone.
And then Travis Jones, their guy from the 22 draft, he's heading into the last year of his rookie contract.
Ah, okay. So Harmon could rotate in immediately, give them depth, but also be the potential long-term answer there.
Exactly. Addresses the now and the future. Seems like a pretty logical fit based on this mock.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears. Round 2, pick number 59. Who do they have?
Princely Umanmielen. Edge rusher, Ole Miss.
Interesting. Edge rusher again on day 2. They took one last year too, right?
They did. It seems like it's still a priority position for them, which isn't too surprising.
And what's the profile on Umanmielen?
The article describes him as maybe a little underrated, but polished, especially considering how deep this edge class is supposed to be.
Okay. College path.
Spent 4 years at Florida first, then transferred to Ole Miss for his final season.
And that final year was the big one.
Huge year. First team All-SEC. Career highs across the board, 10.5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss. Also forced a fumble, had a scoop and score touchdown.
Wow. So not just a one-year wonder, though. Sounds like he was All-SEC twice.
Correct, 2 years running. So consistent production at a high level. And another thing the article highlights,
Let me guess, Senior Bowl.
bingo. Had a strong week of practice down in Mobile. And we know the Ravens scouting department puts a lot of stock in that event.
They definitely do. So what does he bring stylistically? What's his pass rush plan?
Explosive first step that's mentioned. Good bend, too, to get around the edge. Primarily a speed rusher, it sounds like.
Does he have counters? Can't be all speed.
Yeah, they mentioned counter moves, specifically an inside spin, so he's not just a one-trick pony. Seems like he has a decent arsenal.
Okay, so slotting him into Baltimore, how does he fit? Day 1 starter.
Probably more of a situational guy early on is the thinking. Bring him in on passing downs, let him hunt the quarterback.
And then hope he develops under Chuck Smith, their outside linebackers coach. He's got a great reputation.
Exactly. Get him in the building, let him learn, refine his game. Potential to be a lot more than just a situational rusher down the line. It fits that need for, well, just more juice off the edge.
Yeah, you can never have too many guys who can get after the QB. Okay, that brings us to round 3, pick 91.
And it's another defensive pick. Billy Bowman, safety from Oklahoma.
Another Senior Bowl guy too, right? That makes 2 out of these 3 picks.
Yep. Seems less mobile was good hunting ground in this scenario.
So Bowman, what's his calling card?
Ball skills. Big time. The article calls him one of the best ball hawks in this draft class.
Numbers to back that up.
Oh, yeah. 11 interceptions since 2022. That's second among all safeties in this draft pool. Only Xavier Watts from Notre Dame had more.
11 picks in 2 years. Wow. That's serious production. So why isn't he maybe talked about higher, like Watts or Malachi Starks?
Seems like it mostly comes down to size. Measurables.
Undersized.
Listed at 5'10", 192 pounds. And the arm length, 28.5 inches, is on the shorter side. So yeah, there might be some concern about matching up physically in the NFL.
Okay, that's often the knock on instinctive guys who aren't built like tanks. But the playmaking.
Yeah, it's undeniable. And it's not just interceptions. He makes plays after the pick, too. In 2023, he had 6 INTs.
Right.
And returned 3 of them for touchdowns. Half his picks went to the house.
That's incredible. Game-changing plays. First team all Big 12 that year, too.
Yep. Now, his interception numbers dipped a bit in 2024. Only 2.
Any reason given?
The suggestion is maybe QBs just started avoiding him, respecting the threat. He still broke up 3 other passes.
So still impacting the game even if not showing up in the INT column as much.
Seems like it. And despite the size questions, he tested really well athletically.
Fast jump.
Ran a 4.42 40, that's moving for a safety, 35.5-inch vertical, over 10 feet in the broad jump, and apparently looked really smooth in the positional drills at the combine. The athleticism seems legit.
Okay, so fitting him in with the Ravens. How does that look? They have Kyle Hamilton, obviously.
Right. The article points to the Geno Stone situation last year. They signed Eddie Jackson. Didn't quite work out as planned, maybe.
Yeah, it wasn't a seamless replacement.
So Bowman could potentially fill that sort of free safety role, be that center fielder, the turnover creator.
Which then lets Hamilton do, well, Hamilton things. Move around more.
Exactly. Use Hamilton's versatility, let him play closer to the line, blitz, cover tight ends, whatever they need. Bowman patrolling deep gives them that flexibility.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this specific mock draft paints a pretty clear picture, doesn't it? Defense, defense, defense early on for Baltimore.
Very much so. A potential disruptor inside with Harmon, an explosive edge guy in Newman Millen, and then a ball-hawking safety with Dolman, hitting all 3 levels.
Yeah, D-line, edge, secondary, checks a lot of boxes on that side of the ball.
And based on the analysis we've walked through, each guy seems to bring something specific the Ravens could use, whether it's run stuffing, pass rush, or creating turnovers.
So for everyone listening, hopefully this deep dive gives you a clearer sense of, well, at least a possible direction for the Ravens in the early rounds. You've got the rundown on these prospects, their college game, how they tested, and crucially, how they might fit.
Right. It's just one projection, of course, but it's based on needs and player profiles.
Mm-hmm.
And it does lead to kind of an interesting thought to leave people with.
Oh, what?
If the Ravens do go this heavy on defense early, say picks 1, 2, and 3 are all defenders, how does that shape their defensive identity moving forward? Does it signal a shift or just reinforcing strengths?
And what about the other side of the ball? If they wait on offense, what positions become the absolute must-haves later in the draft? Offensive line, receiver, running back.
Exactly. Where do those priorities shift after potentially loading up on D early? It sets up some interesting decisions for the rest of their draft weekend.
Definitely something to chew on. It shows how those first few picks can really set the tone for everything that follows.